No East or West by Mark Sadler. I strongly believe it was not a unification. A unification is born of diplomacy and compromise. What happened in East Germany was a defeat, followed by surrender to a conquering imperialist power. The wall dividing the city of Berlin was pulled away in pieces. Hands that were preconditioned to taking what they wanted, disregarding any greater good, reached through gaps in the barrier to plunder our resources. The night it happened, I witnessed a procession of tractors from our side, disappearing forever through one of the checkpoints in a cloud of deafening music and smoke. In those times, when the East was still the East, I was happier and thinner. Now I'm miserable and I don't know the reason. The hairy slouch of my belly disgusts me. I remember with fondness the Christian service at St. Gebhard's. We were not permitted to worship in the church, only in the hall. The words of the hymns were divested of any subversive content that might stir dissent. Some were censored to such a degree they were reduced to long passages of repetitive music, punctuated by the occasional reference to Jesus. You laugh, but you might have laughed. And it's true, it was ridiculous. But with fewer words, there was more opportunity for reflection. I sang them on the way home, my voice rebounding back at me from the floodlit rampart nearby that held the forces of capitalism at bay. With the barricade gone, so too has the echo that reaffirmed my faith. The words to the hymns have been restored. And yet, they are strangely diminished. I miss the silhouetted landmark of Contraband Hill, a mound of blue jeans slowly being turned into fertilizer for the gardens. They do not talk about the gardens of the East. They pretend it was all concrete and barbed wire. The flowers that were selected by committee and planted in arrangements formally agreed upon by yet more committees gave up their nectar to bees who made their homes in cavities inside the wall. The East always has the best honey. I know a man called Tesma, who worked as a border guard. He could hear the muted hum of the beehives in the concrete. He said it was like listening to a radio through a wall. After a while, he and his comrades began to hear patterns, words forming in the drone. He remains convinced that he heard the bees instructing the men to stand down, to throw open the gates, to tear down the wall. I told him, in more rational times, you would have been shot for such madness. What benefit is it to the insect colonies to be smoked out in swarms? The crust of their homes set ablaze, the remnants caked in graffiti. Years after the fall of East Germany, I crept onto a building site under cover of darkness. I filled a stolen wheelbarrow with a quantity of bricks and powdered cement. In a secluded area where the old wall once stood, I constructed my own small barrier. Others, independently of myself, have formed the same idea. Our unimposing walls, built piecemeal along the foundation of the old, were placeholders for a more permanent fortification that might one day return. I once saw a fellow builder emerge from the dead of night with a wheelbarrow of cement. We nodded at each other, a pair of ghosts holding the ruins. Before Christmas, I ran into Koilitz, who is former secret police. Now, I do not know how he makes his living. He asked me, "Do you recall the stables? It was a hotel where they took prisoners for interrogation." "Ah, it is gone," I said. "There's only rubble now and waste ground. They rebuilt it in South Africa. Now it's going to Brandenburg under the sun. It is exactly the same, even the carpets and the wallpaper. Oh, the staff there are so rude and unhelpful. If you could not see the palm trees from the window, you would think it was East Berlin. They even have a piece of the old wall there. It's on a barge in the harbour. But eventually, I think it will stand again in the grounds. I will return there soon, for 6 months. You should go too, old friend. It will cheer your gloomy disposition." To pay for the trip, I sold some possessions, my Stechkin automatic pistol. The wooden shoulder stock is over twice the length of the gun. I was using it as a doorstop. The hotel is high on the cliffs, set amongst gardens, surrounded by a wall, like the old wall in Berlin in silhouette, but thin and made of bricks, like a theatre backdrop. At the foot of the cliffs, by the beach, there's a large Western-style hotel. It was only a few days before I realized that both hotels were part of the same site, each for different types of guests. The section of the original Berlin Wall was no longer on the barge. It had been sunk offshore, where it had become a foundation for a coral reef. Govinde, one of the hotel workers, told me that a condition of the purchase from Germany was that the wall should not stand again on dry land. Yeah. I realized then it was not enough for our enemies that the barricade be torn down. The wall was a jigsaw puzzle that had been broken up, the pieces torn into smaller pieces and scattered far and wide so they could never be gathered and reassembled. Nonetheless, the idea of it remains. A lot of former East Germans who guarded the wall came to dive on the new reef, said Govinde. Soon it will be covered in coral. If you go now, you will see some of the original shape. It may be possible to go inside one of the towers. I did my scuba diving training in one of the outdoor pools at the Western Hotel. There were 5 others with me, all Americans. A red-haired woman informed me she had distant family in Germany. She asked me where in the country I came from. I told her, from East Berlin. She put her hand on my arm and regarded me with affected sincerity.
I watched the wall come down on TV. I sat on the couch holding hands with my daughter. We were both in tears.
Walking back towards the cliff stairs, I encountered Koilitz. He was reclining on a sun lounger next to a guitar-shaped swimming pool that was crowded with families and children. A bent plastic straw planted in the melting ice of a garish cocktail was being blown around in the warm breeze like a weather vane. I have not seen you at the Brandenburg. What is your room number? I asked him. I have defected to this hotel. It was the cold showers that did it for me. I'm too old and soft in the body. He beckoned me to lean in closer. I require a favor. There is a maid who has been moved to the Brandenburg. They send the staff there who are miserable or rude to the guests. Her only crime is that her grandfather died. She loved him very much. Now she cries all the time. I need you to help get her reinstated in this hotel. I miss her singing as she cleans my room. She is a young girl and sweet, like a Holstein apple. But how can I manage this? Tell the manager that she smiles too much. Her disposition is too cheery for East Berlin. I did not judge Koinitz. We were both residents in a theme park. An approach had been found to capitalize upon my yearning to return to an old way of living. Some of the bees from Berlin traveled with the ruin of the wall to South Africa. Their descendants had established colonies in the grounds of the Brandenburg. I watched one from my first floor window, a black speck meandering over the flower beds. On the horizon, the sparkling blue sea joined seamlessly with the sky. The staff harvest the honey to serve at breakfast, but it tastes different. I told the woman at reception, the honey here is not authentic. You must plant in the gardens only these flowers in the following arrangements. I passed a paper napkin where I had written down the details. Later that day I saw it discarded in an otherwise empty waste paper basket next to the desk. I returned to Berlin in February. In my absence, a group of Western anarchists had mobilized to relocate the walls that had been built by myself and others. They had a website with a map showing the original position of the barriers along the line of the old wall and the new locations. Their leader, Jonas Klein, a former circus performer, had become a local celebrity. One night, when I was building, I felt eyes on me. When I turned, he was standing there. "You're the man called Corvert?" he asked. "Yes. I'm going to take your wall from here when it is finished. I will move it to a different part of the city. I've already made a place for it. I have an artist who will paint a mural on it. One day, I will build a house from your walls. Why will you not leave me alone and respect my work? I will be dead soon, and what happens to my walls afterwards will not trouble me. Because you are building walls in a place where the city decided there should be none, and because they are good walls, constructed to a high standard, why should we not use them elsewhere, not as barriers or relics of a world which has passed? What was better in the East when the city was divided? Name me one thing! The honey was better. Pah! Knives, forks, and spoons were made from heavier metal. They were better quality. Now everyone wants to buy them. Yeah, I sold mine to pay for a holiday. Like a true capitalist. Oh, it's a game to you, all this. To me, it is work, an expression of my politics. I swatted at him with my shovel. He dodged away with just his upper body. Aha! I was in the circus. You cannot hit me, old man. At home, I stared at the map on the computer. My walls, dragged out of alignment in the new setting, spray-painted with banal slogans. That in oilcloth. In my desk drawer, there is a grenade from the war. I thought aloud how I would set it so that it went off when my wall was disturbed. I pictured Klein's face the moment before it detonated. Would he attempt to dodge the explosion? In the blurred corner of my fury, something on the map caught my eye. A pattern taking shape. Two walls close to each other. If I were to extend them, they would join to form a corner. Well, there were two others nearby that could be connected in a similar way. If they were all linked, they would form the side of a building. I zoomed out. Everywhere on the map there were similar patterns. The sketch of a foundation for a new city that was neither East nor West Berlin, created jointly by enemies, unaware. They were collaborators. If it is not a foundation, then perhaps it is the beginnings of a maze that we must build in tandem and then find our way through together. The worker bee is part of a collective. It does not know the grand design that is brought into existence by its efforts. Yet it moves blindly, driven by instinct or programming towards some greater purpose.